I refused to force my son, Paul, to forgive my brother, Mark, after he excluded him from his wedding. Now my family's divided over it. Mark allowed his mother-in-law, Sarah, to organize everything, including the location, cuisine, music, etc. In July of last year, Sarah made the decision to organize a destination wedding at a posh resort. The invitation arrived, and it was sent to Paul and myself. I tried to book our hotel room as soon as the page launched, and I even had a +1 if I wanted to. To be clear, I couldn't risk not getting a room. Therefore, I had to call the hotel to make my reservation because the link wasn't working. The email confirmation stated room for 2 adults, but I didn't give it much thought because I thought the hotel representative's language barrier might have caused the error. At about the same time, I also purchased our airline tickets. Less than a month before the wedding in January, my sister-in-law contacted me in tears and told me that Sarah had messed up. My kid was 13 at the time, and it seems that the resort was adults only, meaning that no one under the age of 16 was permitted. When I requested whether Paul and I might stay at another hotel, they informed me that my son would not even be permitted to attend the ceremony or the reception because the entire resort was child-free. Disappointed, I promised my sister-in-law that I would discuss it with my son. She insisted that she and Mark wanted to inform him in person, even though I knew how thrilled he was about his uncle's wedding. To be honest, when my son was informed that he couldn't go, he broke down in tears. He begged them to reschedule the wedding, even providing his savings as collateral. After 30 minutes of this, my sister-in-law became irate and informed him that the day wasn't about him and that he was being self-centered. After a while, Paul apologized and retired to his room. My son ceased communicating with my brother after the wedding unless it was specifically concerning me, such as when Mark had to relay a message because he couldn't get through to me. Paul would ignore any messages that Mark sent him. Paul would only answer simple queries like, "Can you pass the salt?" or "Help grandma with the plates," at family get-togethers. But he would turn his back on me if Mark or Lisa attempted to strike up a discussion or inquire about his schooling. To make up for the wedding, Mark and Lisa offered to take my son on a special spring break vacation a month after the wedding, but he turned them down and subsequently informed me he didn't want to go. He adhered to his decision, which was terrible because I knew he truly wanted to go there, and I wasn't yet able to finance it. The same thing occurred on Paul's birthday. As I do every year, he inquired whether I was going to throw him a party. When I replied that I was, he asked me not to bring his aunt and uncle. He only stated that if they didn't want him on their special day, he didn't want them on his. I attempted to persuade him to invite them because they are family and were truly sorry. When I told my brother he wasn't invited, he started crying. This past weekend, when we were at my mom's house and the topic of Paul's plans for college came up, things became heated. My mother urged Paul to begin making plans after asking him if he still intended to attend the same institution as Mark. Paul responded that he had changed his mind and was no longer interested. In response, my son said he had decided to study something else because he was no longer interested. "I thought you wanted to be like your uncle," my mother then asked. "Why would I want to be like him?" was my son's recent response. I stepped in at this moment and reminded Paul that his rudeness was unnecessary, but the harm had already been done. After hearing what he had to say, my brother and sister-in-law quickly departed. My brother texted me last night, accusing me of being bad for letting my kid harbor this resentment. He even said that I wasn't attempting to mend their relationship because I was jealous of it. I retorted that he was solely responsible for allowing his mother-in-law to arrange a wedding where my child was not welcome, and that these were the results of his own behavior. He ended the call. My mother and a few other family members believe that in order for us to move on, I should make my kid forgive my brother, claiming that it was only a little error and that there was no malice. But I don't concur. My kid was obviously harmed, and he should only be given the opportunity to move past his hurt and forgive them when he is ready. Edit. I apologize for not getting back to you yesterday. After viewing the Civ 7 revelation, I became preoccupied with the Civ 6 game. Now that I've read through every remark, I wanted to respond to a topic that keeps coming up. I wasn't at the wedding. It didn't feel right to leave after what had happened, and I didn't want to leave my son alone while the majority of the family was away. Paul's tone, more than the words he used, was impolite in his response to Grandma's query. He provoked his uncle with a tone that I've seen him employ previously, and I'm familiar with. He was attempting to start a quarrel, not only answering an improper query. I have respected his boundaries and understand his pain and anger, but that doesn't mean I have to put up with his acting aggressively whenever he feels like it. As for the actual conversation, let me summarize what Lisa, my son, and I said. Lisa, we made a mistake, and you won't be able to go to the wedding. Paul, but why? I want to go, and you invited me. Lisa, the venue only accepts adults. You can't enter. Paul, can't you make an exception? Me, Paul, they can't. Do you recall being informed that they couldn't have kids in the bar when you applied for a part-time job there? That's how it is. Paul, can't you get married somewhere else? Lisa, we are unable to. We have already spent a lot of money on that location. Paul, I can give you my savings. Lisa, it's insufficient. Additionally, none of the guests want to forfeit the money they have already spent. Paul, my father is wealthy. I can leave if he gives you money. It's unfair. I want to attend the wedding. Mark, Paul, I apologize, but we can make it right after the wedding. How about we take you to Greece? Paul, I don't want to go to Greece, he said, growing increasingly agitated. I'd like to attend the wedding. Why do you not want me to be there? Me. It was an error, Paul. We were unaware that there was a minimum age limit, but they wanted you there. Paul, that's unfair. Then why did you invite me? On my uncle's special day, I would like to be with him. This is not our fault, Lisa exclaimed, raising her voice. You have to let it go. It simply occurred. I'm sorry you can't make it, but you must quit being so self-centered. It's not your special day. It's mine. It was then that Paul lost it. I tried to comfort him and gave Lisa a shut up look without saying anything. As I indicated in a previous comment, Mark did say something to her, but I was unable to understand what he was saying. Paul apologized and begged to retire to his room after he had cooled down. Mark and Lisa made an effort to apologize, but Paul ignored them. My kid requested me to go, but I followed him to his room to check on him. I returned to the living area. What the devil is wrong with you? I asked. It is not your place to shout at my son. Lisa, I apologize. I simply have too much stress. For the past 2 months, my mom and I have been at odds over this. Me, I don't give a damn. You made it worse when I told you over the phone that he would be disappointed. Leave. Mark, Jacob, please. It wasn't her intention. I'll compensate Paul. Me, I don't care, I said. Leave. After they departed, I went to see how Paul was doing. I don't remember everything that was said because I don't have a photographic memory, but that's the main idea of what transpired that day. Update 1. In a nutshell, we will no longer be going to family gatherings. My brother promised to respect my son's boundaries after we spoke. He also described the actual events. Paul is currently doing a lot better. Longer update. I told my mother that until things settled down and, more crucially, until Paul felt at ease again, we would both no longer attend family events. She was obviously unhappy, but it appeared that she had now realized how much Paul had been harmed by her persistence. Surprisingly, she explained that she was so adamant that Paul forgive Mark because he had fallen into depression. Paul might become estranged from the family if I made him forgive his uncle, I informed her. When I informed my sister that we would no longer be going to events, she was equally upset, but she understood. In order for the children to continue spending time together, she recommended that we establish our own weekly ritual. Over the last few weeks, Paul has spent time at my sister's house 1 week, and her kids have visited me the following. Paul appears okay with this arrangement, and it's beneficial that grown-ups aren't pressuring him to talk to his uncle. I texted my brother the weekend after my post to arrange a private meeting so we could chat. Lisa wasn't present. Mark quickly expressed his regret for his actions and the things he had said to me. He verified my suspicions. He had been under stress due to frequent arguments with Lisa and had even contemplated divorce due to the severity of the situation. I assured him I wasn't worried about it, even though it might sound harsh. I hoped he would be honest with me about what had transpired. Mark insists that it wasn't until late November that he learned the venue was child-free, but Lisa had known for a long time, perhaps since the beginning. As many of you suspected, it seems that this all began when Mark and Lisa took Paul to the beach a few years back. My son unintentionally called Mark Dad when they were playing, but he swiftly corrected himself. Mark said it was simply a minor lapse, similar to when a toddler calls a teacher Mom. Mark dismissed Paul's embarrassment with a laugh. The catch. During that vacation, Mark's father-in-law, Phil, and mother-in-law, Sarah, were present and heard Paul. Knowing that Lisa couldn't have children, Sarah lost it when they got back from the trip and said she was triggered by witnessing a random child called Mark Dad. Sarah became poisonous and hostile toward Lisa, making demands such as preventing Paul from being present during her visits. Despite Lisa's attempts to clarify that it was simply an innocent error, Sarah coerced Lisa into allowing her to organize the ideal wedding for her only daughter. Despite Mark and Lisa's initial desire to elope and forego a lavish ceremony, after years of manipulating emotions, Lisa ultimately gave in an attempt to maintain harmony. Sarah then took over the wedding plans and deliberately picked a location that would not accommodate children. When Lisa tried to protest after learning that the venue was reserved, Sarah played the victim and dismissed her worries. Even if they slept at a different hotel, Lisa said she tried to work out a deal with the resort that would let kids attend just the ceremony and reception. The management, however, refused to change the policy. Lisa became more and more nervous as the date drew near, and in November, she told Mark the truth. My brother claims that Lisa finally snapped at Paul in part because of her own mother's persistent manipulation and bullying, and in part because she felt guilty for allowing things to get to this point. Mark informed me that instead of excluding Paul and my sister's kids from the wedding, he would have called it off if he had known sooner. However, it was impossible to cancel by November since too many attendees had already reserved hotel rooms and flights. None of this, I informed Mark, justified the way he and Lisa had handled Paul, particularly Lisa. Even though she was older than 40, she nonetheless picked a battle with a toddler because Paul intended to utilize the £2,000 he had saved to attend Mark's wedding. She had screamed at him and called him selfish. I reminded Mark that he had disappointed Paul, who admired him and considered him a hero. Paul had learned that Mark didn't value him as much as he had assumed. I informed Mark that I would go low contact myself and that I would back Paul's decision to stop communicating with him. Mark requested an opportunity to apologize to Paul, but I informed him that he had already done so and that his only option was to wait for Paul to accept it. Although Mark appeared offended, he promised to honor our requests and give us some space and time. Regarding my son, I expressed my regret to him for not advocating for him earlier and for making him go to weekly family events. I informed him that going forward, he was free to choose how he wanted to manage that aspect of the family. I informed Paul that I would be there for him no matter what, and that I wouldn't be disappointed if he decided to quit going entirely. Even if he looked hesitant to do so, I was pleased when Paul proposed that we spend more time together alone, doing things he used to do with my brother, rather than attending weekly family events. We attended a vintage car exhibition last week, and we're going to see Wicked the following week. It sounds like fun, but I'm not a theatrical person. Paul shouldn't hold back simply because he had a falling out with someone he cared about, I told him, adding that I was concerned he had stopped doing things he enjoyed. In essence, I informed him that he could still enjoy those activities alone or with someone else. He acknowledged that in spite of Mark, he had ceased doing them, even though he really wanted to. I then made the decision to buy him some games that he had been looking forward to but had refunded after the altercation with my brother, as an early Christmas present. He even persuaded me to join him on his PS5 for a game of Final Fantasy online while he plays on his PC. He seems to like watching me fail, even though I'll admit that I have no idea what I'm doing because the last Final Fantasy game I played was still in 2D. We would appreciate any advice you may have. For my birthday, we ultimately agreed to travel to his ideal location. I was a little disappointed that I won't be celebrating my brother's birthday for the first time in almost 50 years, but all that matters is that I have my son. It's a relief that Paul is content and less anxious about family issues. It's also encouraging that the family appears to be finally recognizing our limits. All I can hope for is that my brother can improve his marriage. Even though I'm angry at what they did, I do want him to be content. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.